Hey everybody, welcome back. We have a very exciting match going on right now. It's Slivko versus YongHwa. YongHwa is up 1-0 over Slivko. We're going to hop into the second game and see how this all plays out. You ready?
All right, so we're hopping straight into game number 2. You were born ready,
I'm
QXC.
so ready.
Who needs Terrans, right?
Hey, wait, which one of these players is Terran?
YongHwa Slivko, game
Come on,
number 2.
Lucifron, I'm pulling for him, man.
With YongHwa up 1-0.
Yeah.
We'll get to see like all the Terrans in a row soon.
Get to see what?
All the Terrans in a row. It's like we're building up that karma, and then we'll get to cast like a whole bunch of Terrans.
That would be so nice.
Don't worry, it's all good.
But Slivko going against YongHwa, I'm really curious to see how YongHwa plays this matchup, because I know he's interesting. He's an interesting player to watch.
Interesting player. Interesting guy.
YongHwa?
Interesting.
Yeah.
A bit mysterious as well.
Did you know he wears a cape?
He doesn't. Stop tricking me, man.
He didn't wear a cape when we picked him up, man.
No.
He looked tired.
I bet he was tired. It's a long trip from Korea.
And he flew here on a plane. He didn't have a cape on. You can't fool us.
So, it's going to be Daybreak. I think we're going to see Void Race.
Yeah, it seems like the new cool thing in this matchup. That Void Ray Colossus composition. Is that kind of like the... Like, what other mid-game compositions are common now?
Like Void Race, basically.
Just Void Race?
Void Race.
Some people like to use Charge-Slot Archon, then multitask with 2 War Prisms.
Yeah.
And then just keep him in a space until you attack the Void Race. Eventually, the answer to everything is
So
Void
it's like
Race.
a restaurant where they serve one thing, but with like 12 different sauces. Well, you could have Void Rays with this, or Void Rays with that. As long as it includes Void Rays, we're good to go. Yeah. So, and what kind of predictions do we have for what Slivko might be coming out with to counter this? We saw in some of his previous series that he was playing around with his unit compositions and stuff like that. So, if you were to give Slivko his ideal unit composition to deal with this Void Ray Colossi sort of army that we might see coming out of YongHwa here, what would it be?
I would like to see more Infestors.
Yeah. More Infestors.
I miss Infestors.
And, like you mentioned before, QXC.
Never thought I'd hear you say that.
Well, it's PVZ, so it's fine. Either way is good with me.
Against the Void Ray micro, like when they use their ability,
I would
engage with the, like, he didn't use it last game.
Right.
But Slivko seems to be a really quick learner, like, he picked up that he needed Vipers, and then he was really close to the perfect unit composition last game against Parting, but he just didn't control well. But I feel like this time he thought about it a bit, got some food, went to the toilet, relaxed a bit. I think he's going to be good to go.
Yeah, I hope so. That would be interesting. I'm pulling for Terran,
right?
But if there's no Terran, I'm pulling for good play.
You're pulling, yep.
And I really want to see. I felt like one of the biggest problems that we saw with Slivko on New Kirk City against Parting was just the lack of Infestors, and then just the fungals just needed to be a little better.
Close.
Yeah, it was really close.
2 more fungals in that first engagement.
I really hope Slivko took a couple of minutes, like Harstem was saying after that last series, and thought about it. Heart of the Swarm is so new. It's what can I do better? What was I missing in that game?
And there wasn't really that much as well, because he had all the Infestors he needed already. It wasn't like he needed to drastically alter the unit composition he had in that game. That's not the case. He just needed to make a little bit better use of the units he already had. And he already did most of the job, he just didn't quite finish it off. So hopefully he'll recognize that rather than switch up his playstyle, he just needs to make a couple of little tweaks to his game here and there.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm curious if YongHwa will play the same as Parting did with Colossi into Void Race, or start with Blink, then Colossi, then Void Race. So yeah, just really looking forward to this game.
What do you think is kind of like the most standard or the most safe?
Yeah, I think opening up with Blink, pretty early third base, let's say 7 to 8 minutes into Colossi, double Stargate, I think.
Okay, well, let's see if that actually happens, guys. We're going to be hopping into, of course, game number 2 between these two players. YongHwa currently up 1-0. The map is Daybreak, and we're going to be throwing it over to Apollo. It is Apollo this time, and Todd.
Hello, Deutschland. I am back once again with my friend Todd, and we're here to cast some StarCraft, jumping into this next game. And I'm quite excited for this, because we're about to see, can YongHwa go 4-0 in Group A, and it very well could happen here.
And can Slivko finally find the right mix? He needs to deal with that Protoss Death Ball. In the previous series, we saw him not really be able to decide what he has to get to basically overcome that death ball of the Protoss player. Harstem pointed that out, that Slivko might have had some time to basically collect himself and take some time to think about what he needs to. You saw the previous games. It kind of looked like it was the first time he was playing the game. He was sending one Viper alone to pull. Like it's like something you were doing in unit.
What's the range of this?
And yeah, it's going to be daybreak for this map, and we have YongHwa starting as the blue Protoss in the top right-hand corner, playing for team LGIM.
That's right, and well, these players ready to go for it. Todd, as you say, we do have YongHwa in the top right, and down in the bottom, Slivko. Slivko with 1 win and 2 losses at this point, if I'm not mistaken. And if he wins this, it's all to play for him, because he could go 2 wins, 2 losses. On the other hand, though, if he loses this game, this map, because he is currently trailing 0-1, 1 win, 3 losses in a group of 6, it's pretty difficult to come back from.
Yeah, I totally agree. He has, I mean, every group is really tough, but I mean, when you look at Group A, I can understand how you reduce to a lot of those players. It's going to take 1 win here and a good showing in the last series to really be able to make it. And Slivko, he's a regular of the IEM tournaments. He's played so many of those tournaments, and he always has a great showing. It was before on Wings of Liberty, but he's shown that he can play Heart of the Swarm just as well.
That's right, and you know, he's very much so the later game player. If he can survive in the early mid, that's where his strengths come out in the later stages. But is it going to work against the newer Protoss in Heart of the Swarm? Void Rays, Tempest, only a few Tempests though, Storm, and all these combination of units, the compositions that Protoss can build are giving Zerg a harder time in this game. But you know, looking at this, I think if we were to give a definition to what they need to do, Slivko has to win this series if he wants to have a good shot to stay in this tournament, because if he doesn't, then he's as almost good as out.
Pretty much, yeah. And YongHwa, he went for the 4-16 again. He went for the first pylon block. Behind this, he cancelled it. He's going to try to block for a little bit more time here. Finally, the second hatch going down after 3 minutes, actually. It's supposed to go down as around as early as 2:45. So now it was like 3 minutes 10 or 3 minutes 10 or something. So that's pretty late. And it was very well done by YongHwa. He's delayed his own Nexus a little bit, but not by much. And I feel like YongHwa already getting a little bit of an edge. He's gonna go for his usual hidden probe. This time it's in the third of Slivko. He did not try to sneak this one into the main. A Zergling might be this one very soon, actually. Behind this is adding on 2 assimilators, and YongHwa, if everything goes according to the plan and his usual style, he might play with a Stargate here, go for some Void Ray and Colossus, like we've seen him do, go for a third base. And it's really up to Slivko to make something happen this game.
To be honest, through watching all of YongHwa's game, he loves to control it. If he can control what you do and what he does, that's where he shines as a player. And opening up Stargate gives him that option, building Phoenixes off the bat, you know, putting the harassment out there, slowing down these overlords, slowing down the production, and then of course looking to hit the economy, the drones and the queens and so on, and then dictate how fast this game will go. And as you mentioned, the probe there did manage to squeeze a glimpse of that third hatchery. He knows basically what Slivko's up to, and from here he can approach this accordingly. He knows there's not really going to be an all-in from this position. He's free to choose whatever he wants to do.
And YongHwa, I don't know if you remember, but when he played in Home Story Cup, he was one of those players who kept on doing those very aggressive Zealot warping with +1, or even later on with some War Prisms. We've seen him use that in his previous series. I think it was against Nurture, where he was warping in a lot of Zealots at the third base of his opponent with +1 and trying to do as much damage as possible, basically. Because when you're on 3 bases as Protoss, you can really afford to make a lot of Zealots to try to cause some mistake or some damage out of your opponent. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes again for this type of style here, because he's placed his targets on the opposite side of the map as he was before, but in the same position basically as he did before. So maybe a very similar strategy here. He took his gases a little bit earlier in the previous game. I think it was like 6, but now at 6:20 he's just about the same, and he's already getting +1. So if he adds on a couple extra gates here and goes for a quick third or some aggression, I think he would be in in pretty good shape.
And, you know, in Heart of the Storm, we see Zerg players that don't necessarily defend this quite properly because they are changing their style a little bit. They don't always go for the Roach Warren, they don't always go for the Evolution Chamber and Roach Warren at the same time here. And that's something that we've seen Zerg players today struggle with. And so far, there is no Roach Warren. There is no Evolution Chambers down. There's only Zerglings. I'm not even sure if they have speed beam research yet because the gas is relatively late in this game. They were just past the 6-minute mark. But there comes down the Roach Warren. And getting the Roach Warren at this time, he's not really going to be getting Zergling speed, I don't feel. I think he's just going to be building Roaches off the bat. Does he have enough to defend what potentially, as you say, 3 gateways coming down to defend?
And don't you think this is really late for Roach Warren? I mean, this should be on time to defend against this big Zealot pressure, but it feels a little bit later than usual. It was like 7:10 on the clock.
The usual time is like on 7. It's like it's not too much later, I don't think. And as you can see, the Roach Warren's finishing just about as the pressure's going to come. So I think he's going to be okay here. But with the Phoenixes slowing down the Overlords, he is supply capped a little bit. Will slow him down just a tad. But as the Roach Warren finishes up, he should be looking to build this now. But the question is, does he? And he doesn't. 6 drones come in.
Yeah, Slivko is going to have to make units here very soon if he wants to be able to hold this comfortably. He already has 2 points in position at his third. He's going to start to crease spread, which obviously will help grant him vision and speed as well. Spore crawlers are on the way as well. He already has 1 in his natural. He's actually not getting a spore in his main, which is okay. He finally does get it. And yeah, those Zealots are basically going to start streaming in. Last time we saw YongHwa do this, he waited for 8 Zealots. And I think if he does the same here, this might surprise his opponent a little bit. We see Slivko getting a couple links. Oh, never mind. 5 Roaches just started.
Well, Slivko's got a great follow-up, but he needs to get past this initially. He's got the Hydra Den coming down. He's got his Roaches being made, but how much is he... You know, he's taking so much damage. He's consistently supply blocked by these Phoenixes. He's stuck at 94 supply and now going into the red. And the Zealots and Stalkers have arrived. We're about to see the damage dealt out here. A Spine Crawler coming down. Remember, none of these Zerg units actually have upgrades here compared to the +1 attack that these Roaches, that the Zealots and Stalkers have. And damage is being dealt quite significantly.
And nice micro though by Slivko, stutter stepping against the Zealots. He's gonna basically put them in a corner where only one of them can attack the Queen. The Queen has a lot of energy. Now, no transfuse being used on that one Queen. He could have saved it. More Zealots streaming in right now, but we have 10 more Roaches on the way for Slivko. He's adding a Spine Crawler as well, but he definitely needed to transfer some of those drones to his natural here. He's already lost 9 drones at his third base, and those Zealots, he should be able to hold this. And behind this, he's gonna have Hydralisks.
He's gonna counter attack. He will have Hydralisks. He could do a counter attack, but at the same time, the Robotics Bay is now finishing, as a third base should be coming down here momentarily. And remember, there's still Phoenixes to keep on killing Overlords, keep on slowing his opponent down, pick off loose Hydras. So even if Slivko did try to get across the map, he's gonna have to wait for his Hydralisk speed to be researched, which is on the way. And I don't think that time is available to be hit. And if he dedicates too many resources to hit this timing, which, he doesn't really know if the Robotics Bay is down or not. That's the big problem here. And if he dedicates too much resources towards it, I think YongHwa is going to defend, counterattack, and slightly win the game if that's what Slivko goes for here.
But Slivko already going for muscular augments, which is the Hydralisk speed. It kind of hints to me that he really wants to counterattack. I mean, if he did not want to counterattack, he could just not make this upgrade now, get a couple Hydralisks, go to up as 15 Hydralisk, and then take a force, and then go into macro from there. But he's actually getting a couple drones, but a bunch of Hydralisks as well. He's getting roach speed, starting just now and droning again. So yeah, he's actually stabilizing his situation, but I think he does not realize that YongHwa is going to be taking a third base and taking into Colossus here.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the advantages of playing Phoenixes, is that they give you so much hidden information, because Zerg can't scout you. There's no overseers, no overlords, not even across halfway of this map. The harassment still continues. Void Rays are being produced. Colossus are starting to move out here. And we already see the Observer spotting the infestation pit, spotting the Hydras move across. There's 2 Colossus out, if I'm not mistaken, or just about to be 2 Colossus. With force fields here, granted Thermal Lance isn't done, but I still don't think, Slivko can do anything here.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. He has only Hydralisk. He just has 5 Roaches with those, and this is not a very strong army, obviously. What he really likes right now is Vipers to this composition, and he chooses the Infestation Pit path, which is the one he's most comfortable with from the Wings of Liberty days. But I mean, he hasn't even started a single upgrade for his units. He's throwing down 2 Evolution Chambers now, and we have YongHwa already with 1-1 he hasn't made the Twilight Council yet. He wanted to be safe before that, so he's not going to be able to start actually making 7 pylons now, quiet supply blocks. Yeah, he's not going to be able to start +2 anytime soon.
I think what he should be doing now is getting a second Forge and Twilight Council at the same time would be a relatively smart decision. As we see 1-1 coming down by Slivko, he, with the Hive, such an early Hive, definitely Vipers, as you say. He's going straight for Vipers here. And what he's naturally going to start to do is build an army that can beat out Colossus. Pull the Colossus in, the Roach and Hydra kill them, and then the Hydras and Roaches do the rest. But what Slivko doesn't know about is the second Stargate. The +1 being added onto these Void Rays, they're going to be a pain in the ass to deal with.
And I don't know why, but I always forget that you just need a Hive to make a Viper. I always think in my head that you need a Spire, but actually you do not. You just need Hive. And since we see Slivko going for that very Hive, he's actually adding a couple of Infestors, which is going to be very costly on gas. He's already mining on 8 gases, so he's not going to like it too much here. We see he's already banked quite some. But I'm not sure if he really needs those. Maybe he just wants to fungal those Phoenixes and just be done with them.
Maybe. We'll see, as the Hive is now finished, and I suppose Vipers makes the most sense for him to go for right now. I think that's the strongest thing to go for, and there are the Vipers coming out here. That's what he's looking to do. For anybody that's new to Heart of the Swarm, the Vipers have a ability called Abduct, which pulls units directly towards them. Therefore, for example, if we look at the Vipers that pull Colossus in, that pulls the Colossus in front of the main Protoss army and directly head-to-head with the Roach Hydras, and of course they'll just get picked off immediately. Double Evolution coming down to use the Consume ability, which increases their energy straight off, trading HP for energy. And but one big thing I'm missing, Todd, is further upgrades from YongHwa. He's still at 1-1.
He's just made his Twilight Council. He's going to start Blink now, and the counter to Vipers, really, I feel, is Templars for feedback. You can storm your opponent's army as well, and YongHwa is not going to have those Templars in this game. So against a lot of Vipers, if Slivko micros really well, pulls the Colossi and snipe them, I mean, Void Ray Stalker is not really the greatest army there is, even though those Void Rays can be very good. So Slivko right now is just looking for a good engagement. So is YongHwa. We're going to have to see who can make the best of the situation.
One Colossus gets pulled in, a second one does immediately, and all of a sudden 4 Colossus goes down to 2. And it's a pretty good engagement from Slivko, but excellent Force Fields and Time Warp ability come down. Another Colossus gets pulled to the left-hand side here, but remains alive. And even though they don't have the best of upgrades here, with the Prismatic alignment from the Void Rays combined with the Colossus, a lot of damage is being dealt. But 20 Hydras and 15 Roaches are coming out. Will that be enough to actually beat this army?
I think he might have to sack this base. I think, yeah, if he can remax, he should be able to get rid of this army, and he really needs to right now, because YongHwa is going to be on 4 bases. Slivko transfer a couple of drones. He's going to have a 5th base, which will basically become his 4th base. And behind this, YongHwa is still pumping out Void Rays. He's getting Blink. He's not getting +2 just yet. He's adding on a couple gates and 1 more Colossi. 2 upgrades for his Hydralisk, and Roaches will finish in a minute for Slivko, but he's going to engage before that. He's not even maxed.
He actually missed with the Abduct ability there. He tried to grab the Colossus and picked off a Stalker, but even without that, he still overwhelms the Protoss army here, and I definitely feel that YongHwa overstayed his welcome. Should have killed the base, should have retreated back to the Nexus, could have used the Mothership Core for a Photon overcharge on the Nexus, which he may have to do now in the middle, or is he going to sacrifice it? He really can't afford to lose this middle 4th base here if he wants to maintain the upbeat speed of his play.
And it kind of felt that Slivko was going to be able to attack here for a second, but I mean, he wasn't really reinforcing behind this. He's going for the Greater Spire. The better choice here is definitely to wait it out. He's weakened YongHwa's army a lot, but YongHwa, he had a position where he could keep on stutter stepping like he was doing, keep his Colossi behind, he could blink his Stalkers, he would not have lost all that much, and he would have held this small army pretty comfortably. So Slivko right now, if he goes into a Ling Broodlord mode with the army he already has of Roach and Hydralisk, he would have a very strong army.
He's got 2-2 completing now versus 1-1 still. No further upgrades in this game for YongHwa will hurt his army strength so much. Granted, he has switched over to a lot of Void Ray production here, but it's a massive mistake not to continue upgrading at this point. The Roach Hydras, combined with the amount of Corruptors, it depends now. Does he wait for Corruptors and Morph Broodlords, or does he march in with Corruptors? And I feel, with the Corruptor count and Hydralisk and Roach being at 2-2, he could very easily kill YongHwa at this moment.
I'm not sure about killing, but yeah, I think he could at least do a lot of damage. Did he remake his Mothership Core? Actually, I don't see it. I think he just lost it and
Maybe never rebuilt it.
Yeah, because it's 100 gas at this point in the game is very costly, and we see YongHwa. He's anticipating Broodlords, so he's gonna go for a fleet beacon to add on some Tempests to use just like he did before to really try to snipe those Broodlords. And in the meantime, he's finally gonna do his trademark and start dropping a couple Zealots with his War Prism and warp a lot of Zealots in support. But remember, as you said, he's only 1-1, so really lacking those upgrades is going to be very important, and against Spine Crawlers, those 1-1 Zealots don't do that well.
And after a bit of time here for YongHwa to sit and compose himself, he starts the second Forge, he starts the Templar Archives, and remember now, Slivko really needs to win this map and also win this series if he wants to continue on in the Extreme Masters World Championship here. And we have YongHwa coming into the main base, dropping Zealots, as you said, his trademark harassment, the trademark of Protoss. But Slivko cares not. He cares not here, Todd. He marches forwards towards the fourth base of the Protoss. Can YongHwa hold this position?
It's going to be really tough. Obviously, he's maxed, but he has a couple units in the base of Slivko doing damage. Slivko dispatch a couple roaches to get rid of this, and basically YongHwa, by giving up the watchtower in the middle, is allowed Slivko to choose the concave in which he's going to fight, and a really nice spread on all of those units. We have 3 Vipers on the way, but they are not going to be too significant to this fight, and Slivko is not even maxed.
Remember the 7 Void Rays here with 1 upgrades, 1 upgrades that is, as they come in. 2-2 for the Roach and Hydra. I think that he's going to hold this position with ease.
Yeah, it looks so right now. The Void Ray is doing tons of damage. The Colossi is being basically uncontested in this fight. Nice blink micro by YongHwa. Slivko is actually traded very decently. I thought this would go much worse for him. In the meantime, we still have the War Prism in the main. YongHwa kind of forgot about it for now. He's reinforcing his main army. He wants to take on those Bulldogs. Nice blink, being able to snipe some of those. Slivko is going to pull back very nicely. I mean, he wasn't even maxed here. He was up to 180 supply. You don't attack into a max Protoss army if you're not max yourself.
Yeah, and well, this game, both of the players trading blows, relatively close supply, but we do have Storm on its way in here, and that's going to be very crucial against the amount of Corruptors that we're seeing popping now. They will clump up in aid to target down the Tempest, to target down the Colossus here. Decent Hydra defense here inside the main base will bring these Zealots down, and probably the Warp Prism if it does stay, but it does immediately fly off here.
And I have to say, those Zealots without charge as warping are pretty pathetic. Like, they're so slow. By the time they reach Hydra, they already die. So YongHwa, I feel like he forgot charge here. He definitely had enough money. I mean, he's on 5 bases now, even though his main and natural are probably mined out. If you're going to do Zealot drops at this point in the game, which you always are in a split map situation, you should always get charge and more upgrades.
One thing that you pointed out from the previous fight that was missing was anything to deal with the Colossus. We now have 3 fully loaded Vipers, but there's High Templar out there, which could feed back if they're caught out of position. So it's going to be a very important tell here to see, you know, what happens. Do the Vipers pull the Colossus in? Do the High Templar get the feedback off? But Slivko's distracted. Stalkers blink to the top left here. If they're able to actually bring down the drone line and hatchery, that will slow down the income of Slivko. But at the same time here, Slivko's moving forward. The Colossus and Probes actually retreat from that base here. YongHwa's going to have to move in eventually.
I'm surprised that YongHwa did not engage here, because a lot of units were sent back to that fifth base of Slivko. In the meantime, we have another warping in the main. A couple Zealots are going to take on the spawning pool. But I mean, a lot of the army of Slivko was missing here. If YongHwa had engaged, he would have had a very good chance of getting rid of those units. Nice engagement here.
Great Storms coming down on top of these Broodlords. The Tempest from behind doing a lot of damage as well. The Vipers pull the Void Rays in, but not the Colossus. And I think that's a better trade-off here for YongHwa.
And those Tempests, they had to target the Broodlords. They were doing so at first. Nice abduct on that one Tempest. Those Hydralisks are going to be able to get rid of it immediately. Those Broodlords and Hydralisks trying to get rid of those Stalkers right now. The Stalkers only have 2-1 upgrades. A lot of those are going to die. And nice Blinding Cloud as well. Being used on the Stalkers. I mean, melee Stalkers against Broodlings, not a great fight.
That's right, the Blinding Cloud came down from the Vipers, which nullifies their range attack. Great move there from Slivko. 25 Hydras on the way. 3 DTs have been warped into the main base to continue harassment, but there's already a Spore Crawler there from the early game when we had the Stargate play. And Slivko is fighting really for his tournament life here. He's currently with 1 win and 2 losses in Group A. If he loses against YongHwa on this map, he'll go down to 1 win and 3 losses. That's probably not enough to advance from Group A here. So it's everything. This means everything for Slivko, and we can see YongHwa pushing forward only at 140 supply, but we have 2-2 air coming in with shields as well. We have +3 attack finally starting here for YongHwa, and to be honest, I think the one thing that YongHwa needs in this game is time.
Yes, and I don't think he has time, because Slivko, he's done something very smart. He's noticed there wasn't many Colossi left, so he's gone basically full Hydralisk style. He already has a couple of Vipers ready to abduct. If he can abduct this Colossi, and he has a huge Hydralisk force against no Colossi and no Storm, I mean, he's going to be completely uncontested here. So he's going to push forward and try to take the victory in a big fight. Actually, we have action everywhere. We have DTs on the top left side sniping a hatchery. We have more units in the main. Those are going to be killed by the Hydralisk and defending roaches, but Slivko's economy here has been hit. He has enough of a bank to basically max here, but he has to do damage to YongHwa if he wants to be able to stabilize.
Slivko with his spine crawlers are basically planting Russian flags on the other side of the map now as Slivko marches forward with a very strong army. As you said, if those Colossus and the High Templar are out of this game, then Slivko's army is too much. There's so many Hydralisks, 32 Hydralisk. There has to be some form of splash damage to keep YongHwa in this game. He's already lost his middle expansion now. Pressure is mounting for YongHwa. If he doesn't do something soon, he's going to be in trouble. Remember, he does have 2-2 on the air for the way. But DT is getting cleared up as well for harassment here. Everything is just falling apart for YongHwa. And Slivko, will he be able to do this here?
YongHwa is about to engage, but he's not maxed, and he has only 3 Templars. Only one of them has Storm so far. He's going to need much more than that to deal with this heavy Hydralisk and Viper army. No Abduct were used. He's using Blinding Cloud on this Colossi and some of the Stalkers. And YongHwa is just going to pull back for now. He's down to 134 supply to the 185 of Slivko. Slivko, I mean, he's not upgrading anymore. He's really going all in with this, pretty much. He's trying to retake his base in the meantime.
To be honest, those Colossus surviving really helped out YongHwa a lot there. As mentioned, if they're eliminated, great, YongHwa's in good position. But now with 2-2 air completed, what is he doing with that? Because he doesn't have any air. He has Stalker and Colossus at the moment. DT's coming in for harassment again. Another attempt to slow down Slivko's economy, because if the pressure mounts too much, then it will lead to a victory for Slivko here. DTs make their way into the middle line as once again Slivko looks for another chance. Is he going to pull the Colossus into the army here? We're about to see the Broodlords make their marches, likewise do the Hydras. A lot of drones have gone down behind this, a lot of drones.
And I think Slivko, even if he didn't have the Vipers here, I think he would be in a great position, because the only way to deal with those Broodlords is to blink below them and snipe them. But if you do that, you have 1,000 Hydralisks shooting at your Stalkers and killing them. So right now Slivko has done something very smart. He's dispatched a small force of Hydralisk at the bottom right hand side of the map, sniping the Nexus there. The Russian flags in the middle of the map should not affect the final fight. He has to be careful.
Oh, you're losing a lot of Hydralisk here, Todd. That's a lot went down for free there. And if the ground army melts, then the Blink Stalkers can get underneath the Broodlords if they can find position here. And it looks like he's going to make the move any minute now. There's the Blink, and he gets underneath the Broodlords. Are we actually going to see YongHwa do this from an almost impossible position as the Broodlords fall one by one? The Colossus remain alive here. And what a superior fight for YongHwa.
Yeah, great engage here. He went around. He did not take the fight from the angle Slivko was expecting him to take it. And I really expected Slivko to take it here. But I mean, he moved out from the range of the spine crawlers, and he had his army way too spread out to be able to engage cost efficiently.
And with the DT harassment, YongHwa's done it. With DT harassing at the back, he's got no mining base of his own right now, but he killed so many drones. He killed the hatchery at the top left, and Slivko just doesn't have an army anymore. YongHwa has just played magnificently, positionally, slowly. Good game, well played. And YongHwa takes that series and goes 4-0. He tops Group A like a champion, and unfortunately for Slivko, he's down 1 win to 3 losses, looking in quite a bad position in Group A. But what a fantastic play there from YongHwa, who looked on the bad foot for the majority of that second half of that game.
Yeah, it was really back and forth, and one really interesting thing to note was that at the end, YongHwa, he got the 3 attack upgrade, and that really helped in that final fight.
Yeah, what a great game there. Slivko, of course, a little bit distraught there. You would have thought that was that his game? But either way, I suppose we should head over to our analysis desk to find out a little bit more about what happened in that game, more specifically, what happened to Slivko.
All right, guys. Well, there's a fair amount to talk about in that game, of course, over half an hour. So let's start at the beginning and talk about that opening. We, of course, had that +1 4-gate Phoenix. Harstem, how did that work out initially for YongHwa, and how well did Slivko respond to it?
Well, we saw this build before. Yep. I'm not sure if Slivko also watched the games between Nurcho and YongHwa, but YongHwa did the same thing on the same map against Nurcho.
Yep.
starting with 4 Phoenix, clearing the map, clearing Overlords on the map, and then just warping in 1 or 2 rounds of Zealots, even adding some Stalkers with it. And it was going quite well, but Nerdshow refused to get a Roach Warren, and Slivko actually had one. So Slivko was able to defend it without too much losses, I guess. Then he went into a 4th base and a Hydra. Then this is the decision that I like the most out of Slivko. He went for Hydras, while Nerdshow decided to go for Mutas afterwards, and Mutas get countered by Phoenix. So that wasn't the best decision. And Slivko actually was in a really good spot for a long time. He tagged 2 Vipers, had a fight in the middle near his own watchtower, which went pretty okay at the start, but then somehow he still lost the fight. He lost his base. No big deal, actually. Quite passive after that, and I think we had one more big battle in the middle.
Yeah, there was a nice fight we were talking about where there was a couple of really nice abducts on some Colossi there.
Yep.
But after that, the Stalkers were able to clean up because we didn't follow it up with Blinding Cloud. There was possibly not enough energy available. So it was like really, really nice idea, and then just missing the last bit of that execution. Quite similar to when we were 2 fungals away from killing those Void Rays in some of the previous games as well. Just that last little bit.
Yeah, I felt like Slivko really had the right idea here, and it was more like a lack of polish that led to his loss. Like the abducts were what he needed to do. He just needed to do them a bit better and a bit cleaner. It was like the abducts happened, but they didn't happen at the beginning of the fight, and there was just too much damage going on already by the time they actually went off.
Yeah, I feel like if Slivko would have had one more day, like this day to practice, and his group would be tomorrow, that it would be a completely different group. Like it just seems that it's just not it. Like the unit composition is just not it, and the control is just
Yeah. One thing that I thought was really interesting to note, and I'm not sure how well the viewers at home were able to see this, but as we have our own computers here, so we're kind of watching the game at our own pace, the whole time, basically from the 20-minute mark and on, YongHwa is constantly warping in with his Warp Prism, sending DTs to Slivko's bases, just constantly harassing and making it so hard for Slivko to really focus on what was most important. That was his main army. All the time he was pushing YongHwa back, killing his bases, it was taking so much longer than you would expect, because he was constantly having to go back, rally his units, defend against these DTs, defend against these Zealots, and eventually he ended up in a position where he had no economy, and he was out of position, and that was kind of when the game ended.
Yeah, staying active with your units and warping those DTs in and stuff like that really keeps your opponent on your toes. And if nothing else, he's constantly taxing Slivko's multitasking, which of course is huge if you're trying to sort out a big late game, end game push.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating when you have to go back home and deal with 2 or 3 other things at once. We're going to be popping into the game just before the game ended, actually. So, Harston, why don't you take us through what happened here at the end? And I think we can probably put it on Slivko's vision, actually, which might tell us the first half of the story.
Okay, so Slivko was taking down the 4th base while trying to attack the 3rd base with his Broodlords. His first Hydras got caught out of position a little bit over here, and like 40 or 30 supply already died before the fight actually started for him. Then there were no abducts at all, so the Hydras were basically useless against 4 Colossi. Then he missed the final Blinding Cloud. If it would have been over here, it would have hit maybe 12 or 13 Stalkers, and that actually would have still changed quite a bit. Broodlords would have gone down a lot slower, and then it just snowballs, and I think Slivko might have been able to take it. And yeah, this fight is just...
I felt like what you see when you watch this fight is Slivko just doesn't have vision of the flank, and he's not reacting quick enough to the battle. The army comes around, he starts fighting, and he's kind of like takes a moment and isn't quite sure how he should control his army, and then just lets all those units die. And that's not a decision that you would normally make. He would definitely look at that replay and be like, oh yeah, like that was obviously a mistake. But it's the culmination of all that stress that YongHwa was putting him under with all the multitasking, all the Zealots, all the Dark Templar. By the time the game gets to that point, Slivko is probably looking at his 3rd, he's defending that, he's looking at his 4th, he's defending that. Then he sees a ping on the map. He goes to his army and he's like, well, I mean, I guess this is okay, and he just decides to fight because he's not prepared for it. He's not ready.
Todd, get off of my desk, man. Yeah, well, I completely agree. He just wasn't prepared at all. But like you mentioned, we actually started looking at the replay a little bit too late to see it happen. But when the Protoss army moved from the third sort of back up into the natural back around the back of this, there was no unit at the watchtower for Slivko to see it coming. Right. There was no unit position behind his army. He actually had no idea the army was there until his Hydras and full energy infestors started getting roasted by those Colossi. Yep. It was huge.
It's definitely it's a psychological thing. If you don't expect something to happen, you're always going to react slower to it, and he just didn't see it coming.
Yeah. To be fair, though, like he was under so much pressure. There were like DTs in his third, DTs at his fourth.
YongHwa played so well. He was so good with his multitasking, so good with his units. I just wanted to try and explain like why Slivko, a player of his caliber, a top-level professional player, would make a mistake like that. When you watch it again in the replay, it looks like why would he do this? And that's all.
Well, Slivko's not out of the competition yet. He is going to be fighting for third place in Group A. In fact, the deciding game there is going to be Slivko versus Nurchio. And you can go and find that on ESL TV's B stream. We can see that YongHwa is topping his group. We have Parting in second place. And Slivko will be duking it out with Nurchio for that third place spot. So that's going to be on the ESL B stream, guys. Make sure you go check that out. Meanwhile, on the main stage next, we're going to be having MC versus Rhett from Group B, and Rhett has been on an absolute tear. He is currently topping his group 3-0, and MC's been really struggling a bit, 1-2. So we'll see if MC can turn it around, and we'll see if Rhett can keep this amazing run of form he has going through to his next match against the Box Toss. He's certainly going to need it. And that's going to be coming to you guys in free HD all week long here at CeBIT at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship, courtesy of BenQ. So thank you guys so much for that. Make sure you show them a little bit of appreciation on Twitter and stuff as well. Their monitors have been fantastic this weekend, and their support for the tournament has been absolutely top-notch. For now, we're going to hop to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, MC versus Rhett. Don't go anywhere.